Have an extremely popular guest online. This man has over 17 million haters. I mean, followers. Give it up for the one and only tar historian, Logan Saunders himself. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Hey there, what do you say there, world?
That's what I'm talking about. So, my friend, you have been to how many countries now?
75, and by the end of May, I'll be up to 78 countries. I'm trying to
Jeez.
catch up to Phil Kogan. Yeah, I don't
I'm
think I'll ever catch up with Bertram and Elise, but I've got Phil Kogan in my sights. I think he's done about 110 or 120. It seems doable.
Wow, I thought he'd be more by now, but yeah, you might be able to catch him. You
Yeah.
get a couple people donating to the cause. You could take some more trips around the world and make it happen, man.
Yeah, I just gotta learn to play a guitar, head downtown, and yeah, maybe make some money that way.
There you go. So, thank you. First off, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by. If you are listening to this on the podcast, which over 30,000 of you have at this point, thank you so much. We are live Sundays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, racersrecap.com. Join us. We always have some fun people in the chat, and there's a lot of things going on in chat that I'm not able to talk about. So the only way to see that and hear that is to be here live. And speaking of being here live, were you guys the first Amazing Race recap podcast?
I think we pretty much were the ones initially. Yeah, we started at the end of 2013. We did the season 23 finale podcast where we did it live and on video. And then I think starting with either season 25 or 26 is when we switched to non-live and audio only.
Mhm.
And then that was with Michael Harmstone, Michelle Pierce-Denovan, and we also had Ben Powell and Eamon Jawatin in the mix there for a bit.
Right. So,
But
were you the first official podcast for the Amazing Race, like recappers?
I think for like doing it, no, I started with season 1 of Amazing Race Canada, where I did it in front of my couch for about 10 minutes a week. So I don't know
Nice.
if that really counts.
Well,
Um,
I definitely, when I was doing research for the show, found you guys before my season. So I don't really, I remember you guys, and I remember AfterBuzz. I don't know when they started, and that was like when James Wallington was like one of the hosts of AfterBuzz, and that really
Yep.
pretty girl who went on to The Bachelor and then just disappeared. She was on for a while. I forget her name.
And there was your reality recaps was doing it back then too for a few years there, and then of course Rob has a podcast. I think if I remember correctly, they did a couple podcasts for like season 22 or
Did they?
23. I think 23 is when they started doing it regularly, but it was pretty much just us for reality TV Warriors. Rob has a podcast, and then yeah, like your reality recaps and After Buzz, which I think both haven't done Amazing Race recaps for a long time. And
Yeah.
we stopped doing for current seasons after season 32. That's when Harmstone wanted to move on to do like Dutch Mole and Belgian Mole, but we still do the odd historians season for Amazing Race. So the last historian season we did was for season 3, when after we recapped each episode, we had Flo and Zach and Ken Dufini. We had all three of them on
Oh
for a
wow.
special podcast, which was probably the most nervous I had been for any interview with a former contestant, aside from you and Diana.
Zach and
No,
Flo on the same podcast.
yeah, they're
That's
still
pretty big.
friends. Yeah,
That's pretty
and
big.
every couple, yeah, because I don't think either of them have done any Amazing Race interviews. And how that came about was I've been chatting with Ken for since I was a teenager through Facebook. I'm
Wow.
33 now.
Wow.
And So I was telling him we were doing the Historians podcast for season 3. This would have been about 2 years ago now. And I've kept asking him like 5 or 6 or 7 times, please let us interview you. And he said, the only way you can interview me, Logan, is if I can get Flo and Zach to come onto the podcast too. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. So I'm like,
Duh.
yeah, those are
Duh.
that's not really you're not really driving a hard bargain here, Ken.
Yeah, I did get to meet Flo, who showed up for the
Some 30?
season 30 premiere, the start in New York. So I got to meet her. She's such a sweetheart. And I wish that more of the old school Amazing Racers were part of the community still and like reaching out and talking to the fans. But it doesn't seem like too many of them really are still into the Amazing Race and the fandom.
Yeah, did I tell you about the time I met with Joe and Bill from season 1?
Oh, they're the best. No,
Yeah.
you could tell us about that. We got to hang out with them in Hawaii when we went down there, but they're awesome.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I was in Waikiki in Hawaii, and my brother was getting married in Hawaii. This was back in 2019. They were actually the very first people we ever interviewed on RTV Warriors. So this would be, I think we did that interview like 10 or 11 years ago now. And then I just reached out to them saying, my brother is getting married near Waikiki. I've got a few hours before I can meet up with them after my flight lands. So then Joe and Bill said, yeah, sure, let's go out for a drink somewhere. And yeah, I even went up to their condo that they had in Waikiki and yeah, got to see. It's not. I think it's not like Snowball 2 or Guido 2 for their dog. It's a different dog now. Now it's been so long, but. Yeah, it's pretty interesting experience there. Great chat. If any fan gets to Waikiki, reach out to Joe and Bill. I almost guarantee you
Oh yeah,
they'll be more than happy to meet up with a fan, and they're so easy to talk to.
they're they really are. They're awesome. They're just enjoying life. You know, they're both like retired or whatever, just enjoying the good life in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And they love telling stories. And there's so many behind the scenes stories that you'll never hear on camera. So if you ever get a chance to talk to some amazing racers, they love sharing stories and stuff like that. More than other reality TV shows, because Amazing Racers don't have a huge social media following. They don't have like diehard fans like the other shows do, because more people are. It's a team, and more people watch for like travel porn and to see where you go, and you hardly remember any team's names. You kind of remember like their status. Oh, they're the Cowboys. I never want to see them on the Amazing Race ever again. And, you know, people like that. Like, yeah, Cowboys suck. And everybody who says they're my favorite team, stop it already. Stop. They're racist. They were rich before the show. Everything that you hate about, like, all of the people on the shows, like, oh, look at these idiots. Why would they put people on the show? Put people who need the money. They were both rich before they got on the show. Anyway, let's not even get on that. And
maybe if it's a season that ends in 8, they'll be on, because Amazing Race 8 was Family Edition, 18 is Unfinished Business, 28 was Social Media, 38 is Big Brother alumni, and now 48, they have to come up with something even more bizarre. Maybe like people who won the World Series of Poker main event between 1990 and 2010 with their college roommates.
Yeah,
maybe that will be season 48.
Chris Moneymaker and Phil Hellmuth. Yeah, we'll have them on there. Get it going on. Yeah, I don't know if we'll make. I don't know if Amazing Race will make it past 40. I think 40 might be the end of the Amazing Race. I'm sorry. I think that might be the way. Best of the best All Stars, season 40, bringing back all the best teams to ever run the race for the final race, and we'll see how it goes.
If they were from Big Brother.
Well, listen, the reason I never liked Big Brothers on the show is, as you know, is because Big Brothers fans are just psychotic, and they always help the Big Brother teams win. But on a season with all Big Brothers, I don't know if there's a big advantage. The biggest thing that I hate about that when there's all Big Brothers is I know 100% Big Brothers were calling each other, trying to make alliances before the season even started. I hate that garbage. I hope that this is one of the few times the Amazing Race actually enforces the things that you write on and doesn't give them the damn money for making alliances before the season starts. But anyway, go ahead.
I was about to say, yeah, during season 30, you had to have Diana moderate the chat room just specifically for that season, and we were still doing recaps at that time too, and we would get just people just for that one season that were watching it, where you would get, it was just a lot. It was a lot of trolling,
yeah,
and certainly doing a search word and replace to change Jess and Cody's names to Bacon and Tori Spelling also didn't really appease the Big Brother audience at that time either.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Jess and Cody should have never won the race, except for they had fans cheating and helping them along the way. So that's why.
Did you ever?
Good.
Did you ever see the Instagram stories that Cody put out a couple years ago, where
No.
where people were asking him like, "Oh, would you do Amazing Race again?" And then he said, "Oh well, I don't think so, because there's this grumpy old man who runs the show. His name is Bertram," and just went on all of these rants about how him and Bertram didn't get along, and that Bertram was unhappy because during the self-drive legs, Cody would damage some of the vehicles, and I guess him and Bertram got into skirmishes about that, and Cody said, "All I did was just, the cars were only a little bit banged up, it's not a big deal, but to Bertram it really was." So I screenshotted his stories from that, because I was amused, like, Bertram didn't get along with a contestant on The Amazing Race. You very, very rarely hear that.
No, I mean, yeah. But anyway, let's talk about The Amazing Race 37, episode 3. Of one of the best episodes in a long, long time. A great city, great cast, a great, I love the tasks. And there was chances for people to pass each other, even though the team that started in the end was 2 hours after the team that started first, which is absolutely bonkers. So let's get into this one here. First, I want to give a shout out to my man, Mark Jarrell. He is a super fan and hopefully a future contestant on Amazing Race. If you go to our Discord, which there's links in the bio on my YouTube, you can join. You will see a pinpoint map of everything that went on in this leg, how far everything was away, and how long it should take to get there. This whole leg, just in travel time, was about 2 hours in just travel time, not counting any of the tasks. So even if you did it super fast, it was right under 2 hours just to travel. So this was a pretty long leg when it comes to the Amazing Race, especially these seasons, the last couple seasons, because some of them were done in 2 hours.
Compared to 36, where I think the first Puerto Vallarta leg from start to finish was probably about 90 minutes, or especially the last Dominican Republic leg, the penultimate one, was like under an hour.
Yeah, it was just like super fast. And I love when there's a chance for teams to catch up based on their skills and their choices and things like that. So let's get into some of it. Jonathan and Anna starting at 8:31, 22 minutes before the second place team. And like I said, 2 hours before Han and Holden, who left. So Han and Holden actually were the last team to leave, and they were 1 hour behind the 10th place team. So I didn't think there was a chance for Han and Holden to make up an hour to catch the other teams. Never mind, like, leapfrog a couple teams, which was super impressive on their part. Jonathan and Anna, this is one of those legs where they it could have went both ways, and I was, especially after the first episode, I got into Jonathan a little bit, and he came back at me in the comment section, which is totally fine, because I'm always 100% honest about my views, and I'm always 100% fair. If you want to come on the show and give me shit, there's never been a time that I said, no, you can't come on the show and tell me how you feel, regardless of who you are. So Jonathan, you're welcome to jump. Anna, you're both welcome to jump on the show and give me shit. Totally, bring it on.
My favorite part with the fans, some of the people online, is just saying, "Oh yeah, like this will be right before I watch the episode myself," and they say, "Oh, Jonathan is just horrible the way he's talking to Anna. He's the worst contestant ever."
Oh my god!
And then I watched the episode. I'm thinking, well, that was a letdown. I was expecting like a huge screaming match or a huge rant.
He's not even in the top.
Prejudices come out.
Not even in the top 25, top 30 worst ever. I could rattle off names way worse than. He just got pissed off in the first episode. He was great in the second episode, and he was awesome in this episode when he could have exploded, but he held it in. So good for him.
I mean, to be the worst to Jonathan on Amazing Race.
Yeah, Jonathan is the worst. Jonathan will always be the worst. There's nobody that's worse than Jonathan. Nobody. Ever. I don't care who you are. Yeah. Jonathan's mom would say that too. I don't care. Like, come on.
Yeah, at least we kept. Imagine if Jonathan Baker had to be at that detour with the Ninja Stars. It's like, no, get him away from the Ninja Stars. This is not going to end well.
Yeah, Trey said he's not even the worst Jonathan on the show, which is funny because he's not. All right, so teams 6 through 10 were only separated by 11 minutes, so there was a nice little bunch up between them. Pops was made the first great move of the episode, which I was super impressive because I did not expect Pops to make any sort of gameplay moves. I just figured he's here for the ride until his knees give out and he eventually, gets eliminated from the race. But he was in line and made these little moves that can make a big deal later on. And you'll see a couple little moves that actually won teams this leg and lost teams this leg as we move forward. But he was in line and he asked the people right in front of him, can I skip you? We just switch places. And little things like that will make you get a train or miss a train. Even though those trains were like 10 minutes apart, there was like a train that left every 10 minutes or so for people. Good?
My favorite part was if you look really closely at the background of the scene, you'll see a young American couple from Tuskegee trying to take a selfie as the bullet train goes by, and then they ended up not getting on the train. So I thought that was a nice touch in the scene. But you have to look really closely to see it.
They eventually got eliminated, right?
That same leg, yeah. Imagine if they did like a switchback, because it's supposed to be honoring all of these classic twists. It's like, oh, you're taking a bullet train to celebrate one of the Amazing Race's funniest moments. Everyone gets the selfie cam, and pay attention to the schedule. Look closer at your watches than at your own faces.
Yeah, ding dongs. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there was a team that got eliminated because they were taking a selfie. Good job. And not like they had a chance anyway. They would have eventually got eliminated. So let's get it on. The bullet train would travel 29 miles in 13 minutes at an average speed of 180 or a top speed of 186 miles an hour. And as cute as Bernie is, she had the line of the episode. The bullet train is kind of like a train. And then Kerrigan is like, it is a train. It's called a bullet train. Come on.
My favorite is when they cut to Carson and Jack, and then one of them says, oh, this bullet train is a lot like a bullet bill.
A bullet bill. I didn't miss that one. My kids would have loved that. My kids would have loved, but they love Bullet Bill. So Scott and Lori caught the train right here. This is one of those little things. They caught the train by 1 minute. Guess how much they won this leg by? 1 minute. So catching that train is the difference between being in first place and being in second place. 1 minute. They caught that train by 1 minute. That makes the difference for the whole leg because they only won this leg by 1 minute. So every little thing that they did during this episode was the difference. And I'll show you a couple more decisions that they made them win this leg. But that was the first one that changed everything. Running up there and getting on that train by 1 minute gave them the advantage that they needed to continue on and move forward. I love the little things. Good.
Was binge watching Racers Recap one of those moves for them, Justin?
Well, I mean, I know that, let's see, 3 of the last 4 winners binged watched the Racers Recap before going on the show. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say about that. So maybe it has something to do with it. And I would hope it does because that's why I do this show. I do this show for the super fans. If I wanted to do this show for fame, I'd be just like Rob has a podcast and never say anything negative about any team. Everything is just happy-go-lucky. And it's like, hey, yeah, I know how to get people to watch shows. Like I could just be like Cheeseball, like pretty much every other podcast. I don't know any other podcast that actually say what they really feel. They just say what they think fans want to hear, to be honest. I mean...
Yeah.
I mean, you guys do, but you guys don't do the Amazing Race anymore.
Yeah, now we have all of these Belgian fans each year now.
Yeah. I don't even know how you watch those shows. It's like, I don't know. We the mole. What? We who? Huh? I don't know.
Yes, what? You may want to brush up on your Dutch if you ever want to go to the Netherlands again, Justin.
Yeah, well, the good thing for me is that people in Europe are way smarter than people in America, so they all speak English. So I don't have to worry about speaking their language. They all speak English. It's like, it doesn't matter what country you go to. They all speak multiple languages. It's just the United States. It's dumb.
I wonder wonder if was it if Shack Attack would have had a tough time here in Japan, because on your season, Rotterdam and Amsterdam confused them. And in Japan, Tokyo and Kyoto are anagrams of each other. So would they have taken a bullet train to Tokyo thinking, well, they use the exact same letters, so it has to be the exact same city?
And isn't it one was the former capital and one is the current capital? So like they could have got that confused as well.
Yeah, they said, go to the capital of Japan. They didn't say if it was current or historical.
There you go. So this was a cool episode because 5 separate trains separated all the teams. So there was 5 different trains that the teams were on, which separated those teams by 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and so on. Which I like, makes a stagger, so then you can use your skills to either catch up and pass people, which we did here, as Scott and Laurie beat Jonathan and Anna to the first task. But Jonathan and Anna were, even though they got beat to the first task, they were the first ones to put their little note in the water. And the only people who didn't do the right thing was the team that got eliminated. Every other team that put that little note into the water, immediately after seeing it said, write that down, write that down, write that down. Yeah. Only one team didn't, and guess who was like, Courtney and Jasmine.
I don't recall them doing a Charles Nelson Riley impression from a Match Game.
Oh my God, Charles Nelson! Where'd you pull that one from? What are you, like 60?
I'm the youngest sibling in my family.
All right, Jack and Carson did a super fan move type of thing here as well. When they saw the other teams already leaving, they knew, okay, they weren't that far ahead of us, so this task has to be really fast. So they kept their taxi. Future racers, write this down in your book of racers recap tips. Route infos tend to be really fast. You should always keep your taxi for a route info. I mean, route infos are not usually long tasks, so keep your taxis, especially in a place where it's hard to communicate with people like these Asian countries, especially China and Japan and those type of countries where the taxi drivers seem to screw teams every single season, like mine.
And Japan, everyone uses public transit there. It's like very similar to Hong Kong and other places, where I'm surprised that many teams were even able to get a taxi in Kyoto. Taxis, they're just so overpriced there, and and public transit is so efficient to the point that when people miss like the last train of the night, they'll just hang out at like a 24-hour karaoke building and just rent out a room there. And they'll just sing karaoke until they fall asleep for a couple hours and then take the first train in the morning. Like, that's how much people avoid taxis in Japan.
How many cities have you visited in Japan?
Oh, because in 2019, I did a 6-week trip through Japan.
6 weeks in Japan?
Yeah, in 2019.
Holy cow.
I started in, my one of my closest friends from elementary and high school, she taught English in Japan for about 9 years. She just got divorced a couple years ago and came back to Canada. But she lived in Kobe, which is right next to Osaka.
Oh, wow.
So the very first time I ever went to Asia was in 2019. And the very first stop I made, I stayed with her and her husband in Kobe. And then I moved westward until I got to Nagasaki, and then made my way eastward. And I had another cousin also teaching English in Japan in Matsumoto, which is near Nagano province, that they went to in season 26. And then I did like a couple weeks in Tokyo.
Nice. Look, you're all over the place.
And then back in 2023, I went back to Japan again, met up with that same friend in Kobe for about a week, and traveled around a bit more. And I have another cousin who I had never met before. He's like a second or third cousin. He had been teaching English in Japan since 1990 or 1991 in a town called Morioka. And I stayed with him and his family there.
Did you play and that's Japanese hacky sack when you were there?
No, that never came up. I've never been spontaneously pulled from the streets to do a Japanese game show.
Oh, dang it.
Anything like that. Yeah. Speaking of which, I am so glad that this is the first season since season 18 to avoid those stupid Japanese game show tasks.
Oh, well, they're fun. They're fun. Come on. they're just crazy. I love that they do things differently over there. Like the one where they have that tube is the latest one I saw on my feed where they're blowing a bug back and forth, and whoever blows the hardest shoots it down the other one's mouth. I was like, oh my God, I love that stupid stuff.
That'll be Joey Covino's game.
Yeah, well, he likes to put a lot of things in his mouth. All right, so Japanese hacky sack was basically what they needed to play. Jonathan absolutely crushed it, and then he watched Anna struggle, and he kept he kept biting his tongue. So he learned that lesson from the first episode. So like I said, whatever they did and talked about during the downtime seems to be still working. And because he didn't pressure her too much, it allowed her to gain that confidence enough to pass her challenge. And they got the express pass, which is absolutely huge at this point. If you can get the express pass and still be in the top, I mean, there's nothing better than that at this point. It's just, can you use it properly? Not like Josh and Tanner. So
who are they again?
They were the hunky beefcakes from my season. The ones that I was picking on somehow. Those 20-something-year-old 6'3" and 6'5" jack dudes. And meanwhile, Dad Bod was picking on them somehow. I'm the bully. Okay. All right, so Scott and Lori were third there, but the first out because they used strategy. They said, hey, if there's a leg that we're going to win, it's going to be this one. Let's get a chance to pass it. Or maybe they just figured that the other teams were a little more athletic. Whatever their mindset was, they were trying to win this leg. And because they left when they did, they were able to win this leg. If they would have hesitated for 1 minute longer, they would have lost this leg. They made the right decision. Again, get in, get out, and go. If you don't think you can win it, then go. But I like that Jack and Carson stayed there, and which is my mentality, stay there until the other team gets it or you get it. Don't leave beforehand. I mean, Stassi Schroeder is right. Every minute does count. It just took almost 30 seasons for it to really come to fruition here, aside from other rare instances over the course of those 20 years since she played. So Erica nailed it on her second try. Holden got it on his first try, and because he was able to get it on his first try, he passed. Han and Holden passed two teams. This is where they caught teams right here. Even though that they were an hour behind every other team, they made up an hour somehow between that and this, passing two whole teams, which is huge on the Amazing Race to make up an hour. I think that's pretty good.
Maybe they just leapfrogged from one bullet train to the other. They just got a good running start and just latched on to the next one.
But let's get to the fun part. Every single person was pretty much flinging it, and nobody could pass that flinging it test. Do you want to be a ninja or do you want to make paper cranes? Come on. If I'm in Japan, I'm being a ninja. It's the right, I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but it's the one that I would have picked. It's a skill challenge. It's actually two skill challenges where it's like they don't usually put two skill challenges. It's usually like a skill challenge and like a straightforward brawny type challenge. But this one had two skill challenges and it caused, the best drama of this season so far, I think. What do you think? Origami?
Yeah, it was quite the troll to do that, where it's like, oh, do you want to be a ninja or do you want to watch paint dry? Which do you want to do? But if you want to be a ninja, by the way, we're going to make this task pretty much impossible. And it's almost like a skill testing question where it's like they're testing your ability to see how stubborn you really are, knowing that this task is almost impossible, almost unachievable, unless you train to be a ninja before the start of the race, which
I wouldn't have had on my bingo card.
Yeah. Didn't fall into yours or Diana's skill set before you went on the show. Ninja training, go out to the woods, punch dance all of your rage out like Andy Samberg and Hot Rod.
Oh my God. Hot Rod reference market. Lori and Scott switched at the exact right time. They went in there, they tried it. She was like, we're not going to do this. And they made the smart decision. Again, this decision was the right one. Immediate. They saw that they weren't going to get it. It was just too hard. Immediately switched, went over. Obviously, it would have been different because if the tasks were further apart, that's the only thing that I think could have made this a little better. Whereas teams were less likely to switch if the tasks were further apart, and that would have really been fun to watch. Like how many tries it would have taken teams to do the ninja challenge if the other task was far away. Yeah. But because some teams, I think, may have set the record, and we could check with the Tar historian for most tries before switching. We'll see here in a sec. Melinda and Erica, Pops and Jeff seem to be working together. I don't normally like teams working together, but if you're going to work together, it's when you're in the middle of the pack and, you know, you're not fighting for first and you're not really fighting for last. So go ahead. Let's just help each other and move forward.
And we have a mother-daughter team. Like, look at all the seasons across all of the different franchises. Like, we got to throw them a bone here at this point, right?
Yeah, but they made one of the classic blunders of the Amazing Race. Right now, the daughter has done all 3 roadblocks, so Mama is going to be forced to be doing a roadblock that she's not going to be good at. So like, unless you're in the bottom, you got to keep it even. Like, you got to keep it even moving forward, or they're just going to get stuck on a task that she has to do it, and they're just out of the race. So I don't see them going much further because of this lopsided detour. Everybody else is 2-1 detours except them. They're 3-0, and I think that's going to play into why they get eliminated.
Roadblocks.
Yeah, roadblocks. Sorry, the detour.
Maybe they didn't watch your racers recap before they started the race. Maybe they watched Chuck and Winona's racers recap. Make the strongest person on the team do all of the roadblocks at the beginning of the race. It definitely won't backfire later on by halfway through the season when you have a super physical task.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they eventually made that switch because there was some seasons where one member of a winning team who won the Amazing Race, I think, only did one roadblock in the whole season.
It's happened, yeah. It happened twice in the first 5 seasons, yeah.
Come on, bro. All right, so Alyssa and Josiah... John and Anna, Jack and Carson switched at the right time. I think they both gave it a good try and then realized, it's time to go. Let's talk about people who took way too long. Alyssa and Josiah took them 24 tries, which I thought was a record until I saw Nick and Mike 31 tries before switching to another task. 31 tries might be the most tries on any detour ever. Never mind before switching. Any stats on that? Is 31 tries the most ever?
If you're comparing it to Amazing Race Canada, there's no way, because Amazing Race Canada has so many memorize this passage task or
we don't talk about any other Amazing Races because literally nobody cares about any of the other Amazing Races here in America.
Not even Amazing Race Asia.
Nobody cares.
What about nothing that Michael McKay produced?
Nobody cares.
Australia too.
Nobody.
You're dissing Lucy and Amelia.
Listen,
not even Lucy and Amelia.
I did a recap of Canada, and nobody watched it because nobody cares.
No. Stefan and Antoine definitely watched it because I saw those comments that Antoine made. He had a lot of beef with you.
I don't even remember that, to be honest. That's how long ago and how little I care about the Amazing Race Canada, because there's literally only one Amazing Race, and it's in the United States. Other countries do a form of the Amazing Race, but it's just it's like hand-me-down shows. They're not really Amazing Race. They're just a form of the Amazing Race. This is the Amazing Race here in America. It's the real deal. That's why we don't count, La Hammerats des Millions. Get out of here.
I just updated the Hammerot stats last night when a student didn't show up for one of my classes. I'm like, well, I guess I'll update those averages for Hammerot's Le Million 9. So that's all now on the sheet now. Speaking of which, Amazing Race Australia 9 started filming pretty much the same day as Amazing Race 38. And I think Phil Kogan might have an aneurysm because... I only do location spoilers. I avoid all other spoilers like the plague. So if you don't want location spoilers for Amazing Race Australia 9, feel free to plug your ears right now. But
nobody
cares. First location is Nepal. And I think for years that Phil Kogan would quit hosting the Amazing Race once he finally gets to Nepal.
Oh, we had somebody here joining. Who is that joining into the room here? And
Who's that Pokemon?
oh, okay, there you go. There you go. Like somebody joined. I have no idea who it is. And that's one way of keeping this open here on The Amazing Race. So Han and Holden, Nick and Mike also working together, which I don't know if I would have done that. I mean, they were two of the bottom two teams kind of fighting not to be last, but there was teams behind them. I don't know if that situation I would be working to help a team possibly pass me. I don't know if I'd be doing that. Well, actually,
yeah, I don't think they had like an unaired grievance with Courtney and Jasmine of all people. Be like, oh, we really need to get Courtney and Jasmine out of the race. Let's team up on this.
No, I don't. I mean, Courtney. I'm surprised Courtney and Jasmine made it this far. To be honest, I don't think I saw them run once on The Amazing Race. I don't think I saw them with any sort of intensity on The Amazing Race. They were just way too calm. And anybody that you hear on The Amazing Race says slow and steady wins the race will never win the race. They're slow, and if you start off with the term slow, it's a race, you lost. That's a fable. Like a turtle will never beat a rabbit in a race. I don't care if you're racing underwater. It doesn't matter. There's a turtle will never win, will beat a hare. Get out of here. Slow and steady never wins. Calm and patience sometimes gets you through, but that has nothing to do with being slow.
Amazing Race 48. Deborah and Steve win. That's my prediction right now.
We'll see how that goes. So this one came down to, just being calm, knowing when to switch the tasks, and folding the paper crane was pretty cool. It's not that fun to watch. Like, it's not a task that's really fun to watch. People fold paper. So that task didn't lead to great viewing as far as watching them, but it led to great drama because of how hard it was. Even if you knew how to make the small little paper ones when you were a kid, nobody remembers that. We all learned it, but the only thing I can do is that little paper football. If it was the paper football, we would have been in and out in like 2 minutes. I could do that little football. We'll see how that goes. Beekmans say hi. Hey, I wish they were here.
Beekmans?
The Beekmans. Another one of the.
I was in weird coincidence. I took my dad never really travels at all, but he's only used his passport once in like the past 40 years, and that was to go to my brother's wedding in Hawaii. But I somehow he was in for a trip to Arizona back in November. And in our hotel room, in the bathroom, there were Beekman products in there.
Nice.
I was thinking, whoa, very, very unexpected, Amazing Race reference to pop up in a hotel room in Sedona.
I love them as people. I think they're incredible people, and I think they have great products. I just, I was upset when they won the race because they got saved twice. Like, anybody who gets saved twice shouldn't be winning the damn race. If you come in last,
it was sandwiched between so many predictable. It was during that stretch where there were so many predictable victories where it's like you gotta shake things up,
Yeah.
And it was really entertaining the way that they won, especially just how. When I did the Tarstorian blogs for season 21 a few years ago, even I forgot it wasn't just being saved twice. Like, there were Natalie Nadia breaking the double U-turn, for instance.
Yeah.
And sending out Ryan and Abby.
Strong team.
And they also got saved by James and Abba having their backpacks stolen by a Russian taxi driver.
Yeah.
Where it's like, who knew that would happen in Russia, right?
Yeah. Some got stolen in Russia? No.
What?
Huh? So for doing everything right, even this is a compliment and a warning for Scott and Lori. I don't know if they could have done anything or ran a leg more perfect than they ran this leg, and they only won by seconds. Like, how could you win another leg if this is probably the best leg you can run, where you made all the right choices at the right times and you still barely beat Jack and Carson? I'm happy that they won, and they keep making me look dumb, which is great. I love being surprised. And for some reason, I thought that they were both older than me, but I am older than both of them. So maybe it's just the gray hair. I don't know. But yes, I'm older than both Scott and Laura. The only one There's only 2 people older than me on this whole season. So we'll see how it goes. Oldest person to ever win the race.
That would be oldest person ever to win. That would be Dave, as far as the U.S. version.
Well, there's only the U.S. version, okay? Nobody cares about any of the other versions. Stop. Like, nobody needs to reference those.
I have to. Do you know how well I was treated by the Amazing Race Asia people, especially during season 5 of Amazing Race Asia? Like, I got to hang out with Revilson from season 2, who has the all-time best race average ever.
Yeah.
And I got to hang out with Alan Wu.
Alan Wu.
Alan, yeah, I got to hang out with him at a Starbucks in Singapore back in 2019. And
nobody knows who he is, but I do.
He crossed over to the U.S. version briefly for the Singapore leg back in season 16.
Oh, you're right.
I believe
he did make an appearance.
He said Alan who, but oddly enough, people assume that he met Phil, but him and Phil Kogan have never actually met.
That's very interesting. That's really interesting.
Because Phil lives in LA, and then Alan Wu has a lot of family in California. So there was one time where he was in Phil Kogan's neighborhood, apparently, and then it just happened to be that Phil was busy that day. So him and Phil couldn't meet up. And then when they filmed the Singapore leg, the schedules didn't line up either for filming for them to be in the same spot at the same time, which was even funnier because somebody else thought, I wonder what all the Amazing Race hosts talk about. And then I have to be the one to break their hearts and say, sorry, but the Amazing Race hosts
never talk to each other.
Other than John Montgomery and Phil Kogan had like a video that they had uploaded, I think for season 9 of Amazing Race Canada, where they had like a 1-minute video of them talking about each other's versions. But outside of that,
yeah, I like John Montgomery.
None of the hosts. Yeah, I met him. He came to my alma mater, actually, back in 2016, 2017, where I got to check because he did an Amazing Race event at my campus a couple years after I graduated. So, I just happened to be there just for that Amazing Race event. And yeah, I got to chat with him for about 15 minutes or so, which is pretty interesting.
That is pretty cool.
And I was wearing my Space Jam shirt at the time.
All right, let's finish up this episode so we can get into some of the good stuff coming up. First place, Scott and Lori barely beating Jack and Carson, who beat Jonathan and Anna top 3. And then, you got Melinda and Erica in the top 4. That's a great finish for them. Brett and Mark made up a lot of time coming back to 5th. Pops and Jeff, Alyssa, Josiah, Nick and Mike, Han and Holden, Bernie and Carrigan still holding on, and unfortunately we lose a team that has a beautiful story, and they look like they are an incredible couple, but they just weren't great amazing racers, and Courtney and Jasmine. And when I speak on this show, I always speak of the people as racers. If I talk about them as people, you will know the difference. They seem to be incredible people with incredible hearts who do a really tough job, but I don't see it in any world if they ran the race 100 times, they winning and ever. They just don't have that fight in them. They're just too nice. You can't be too nice to win the race. It just doesn't happen. It's
like the John and Scott effect is sometimes what I refer to it as, where they were the first boots from season 9. And if you ever watch the premiere with John and Scott in it, big super fans of the show. At that time. Probably did not watch Racers Recap before they went on.
Definitely didn't.
And just very really into it, but like they were very passive on screen. There wasn't that sense of urgency, almost overwhelmed to an extent on screen. Like really enjoyed their experience, but in terms of that case of if you ran it 100 times, they would finish near the bottom.
Somebody said based on Tar Hub Discord, which I'm not a part of, Scott is still butthurt over Justin's cast assessment. Why? It should be better if I say that you don't have a chance and you prove me wrong. Shouldn't that be better? Shouldn't that be better than me saying you're going to win and then you don't? Right? And I saw somebody say that they'll be big targets for like a U-turn vote. Nobody's going to U-turn them. Nobody's going to U-turn Scott and Laurie because they're so like the way you look at them and their demeanor and how nice they are, and they look so much older than they actually are because of the gray hair, and they have 8 kids, which you think, you know, that's got to be older. They're still in their prime. They're younger than Kim and Penn, right? They're right around Kim and Penn's age, I guess. So I think
has anybody when you've done your cast assessment, how often do people like send out messages saying, "Woo, Justin's cast assessment really, was really good towards us"? Because when you do a cast assessment, especially when you have 13, 14 teams
and no information.
And only 1, 2, or 3 teams are going to be happy with what you say.
Yeah.
And the other 10 or 11 are going to say, "Oh, this guy thinks I suck."
Based on nothing. We say this every season. They give us no information. They don't even give us like an interview. They don't give us anything except like a blurb and maybe like a 5-second, 10-second Instagram question that doesn't say anything about you. So just based off generics, so what? I happen to be right most of the time on like, it's just because I study this race like people study like real things, like a doctor studies doctor stuff. I study this race because it's one of the few things in life I am an expert at. And so what? Like, yes. No, I misjudge them, which is great. Be happy about that. Don't be upset about that. But I did get 3 of the first 4 boots. I predicted though that they would be out at the bottom here, and
we need T-Mobile to help sponsor those preseason cast videos again.
We need anybody.
I remember being in the 6th grade, and they had on the Amazing Race Season 3 page, they had a T-Mobile phone with the digits like for the like a keypad, right?
Wow.
And then if you pressed a button on the keypad, it would play like a random clip from the first episode of
that's cool.
Teams. Yeah, for some reason that still sticks in my mind. Like, what would that be? Almost 25 years later.
Oof. All right, so moving forward, Scott and Laurie are statistically tied for the best team running this season with 3rd place, 2nd place, and 1st place, getting better every leg. Jack and Carson have a 1, 4, and a 2. Jonathan and Anna are also tied for that with a 2, 1, and a 3. And they could have been first this leg if they didn't want to stay and get the detour. Stay and get the express pass, which I think is going to come in very handy really soon on this race. Everybody else is kind of finishing. I thought Alyssa and Josiah would do a little better, but they finished 1st, 3rd, and then 7th in this one. But I kind of had them in my top 3 as well. All right, so let's move forward. Next week, we got Bali, where you see people four-wheeling through the jungles. We got some sort of net task, which is like a result of the driver's seat, where they're going to need to collect something of a certain weight, according to what I see from the driver's seat board. Laurie seems to be pissed off, so obviously they didn't get the driver's seat. Pops and Jeff want revenge, so obviously they didn't win the driver's seat. From the previews, I can get an idea of who did get the driver's seat. I don't know if I want to spoil that, but from the previews, it's kind of clear who does get the driver's seat. But I was super curious about what this driver's seat could be because it hasn't been in any other Amazing Race franchises.
It's a bit of a stretch in any of the other versions if you try and find an equivalent. It's nothing really specifically like this where one team assigns like how much work everyone else does at a specific task. That's never really happened before.
So, but I do love this idea of the driver's seat, and I do love that the fact that if you do zoom in on the board, you can see that there's clearly little weights. So there's 2 that are 15 pounds, 3 that are 20 pounds, and 5 that are 25 pounds. So obviously it seems like whoever gets to the board first has to determine how much of something people need to collect or carry. Yeah. Not necessarily sure about it. I'm guessing it's how much you got to collect of something to put somewhere before you can move on, which is cool. I love this twist. I love that they're adding some drama so they can get new fans of the show, which is a reason some people don't enjoy the show because there's not enough drama to keep them engaged, especially compared to some of the other shows that are really, really popular. So we'll see how this really affects the the race moving forward, especially because at some point there's going to be a U-turn, and obviously there's going to be some sort of revenge coming up from this. So
it
we'll
gets connected to it.
Yeah, so we'll see how this plays out, and if the team that I think gets that U-turn board, gets the driver's seat, I think they were already going to be a target for the U-turn, regardless, because of how good they've been doing.
What's interesting is that this driver's seat idea is like something I know that Bertram and Elise had thought about for a really long time, because while your season was airing, Justin, they did a variation of the handicap for Josh and Tanner's non-elimination speed bump, right, where they made them both do the roadblock, right?
Yeah, that was a tough road. That was a tough roadblock that you couldn't do fast. Like there was like a set time that it was going to take, and maybe you can make up 5 or 10 minutes, but that was got to be one of the, if not the toughest speed bump to ever be on The Amazing Race. I mean, that was tough. I don't think anybody could have overcome that one. And they were strong and fast, and they still couldn't do it.
So I remember Michael and I were podcasting about the time where we were saying, oh, it's great that they're doing something other. We've been waiting for the speed bump to go away. I'm glad they used a different non-elimination penalty, and that one is very similar to the handicap non-elimination penalty in the Norwegian version of Amazing Race that ran for 2 seasons a long time ago. So I remember I tweeted about that online at the time when the episode aired, and Elise, I believe, responded to that tweet saying, oh, by the way, we've had other ideas for non-eliminations, and she briefly said that one of them was that when they were, I think it was around the time when they had marked for non-elimination and before they set on speed bump, is one of the ideas they had is the team that finished last on a non-elimination leg had to permanently have 10 or 15 pound weights in their backpacks. So when I heard about this for driver's seat, I'm thinking, oh, so they've still been trying to incorporate this idea for, for like almost 20 years now, and now it's being implemented in this driver's seat. So all of these different production teams for these different shows, they'll have this idea on that they put up on the board, and it just floats around for decades sometimes before they find a way, hey, maybe now is the time we
I'm glad it's not go eat an ice cream cone before you can continue on. Like, are you kidding me?
Tie a knot, sit on an ice chair.
It's like, come on.
Both of which have happened.
Yes, they have. So moving forward, going ahead, what else can we see? Obviously, there's going to be a U-turn. Obviously, there's going to be a yield probably. What else could they throw in the next couple legs that we haven't seen yet?
Fast forward, of course.
Fast forward.
Sure that's as classic as you can get. I would love to see them use the hazard from season 19 that appeared in just one episode.
Explain the hazard for those who don't know.
So if I remember correctly, that's where a team that finished, was it last on the leg or last at the starting line task? Might be last on the starting line task. Last on the starting line task, and they got a hazard, which is a task that only they had to perform. It was essentially a pseudo speed bump.
Got you.
But they called it a hazard. They rebranded it as a hazard because it wasn't an official non-elimination penalty for being last at the pit stop. So they just said, "Oh, you'll have to do a hazard."
All right. So from what I see, head to head, I like head to heads when Canada did the best head-to-head so far. That I think it was the one with the boats, and they were like, trying to get the goals with the boats. I thought that was pretty cool. Hated the way America, huh?
Do you know the story with the boats one?
I don't know, but we can.
So this is one of my favorite podcasting stories. So when they did because it was the hockey on the boats, right?
Yeah.
And it was trademarked by this guy in Quebec.
Really?
And he pitched so before season 3 of Amazing Race Canada, when they did this, he was on Dragon's Den, which is the equivalent of Shark Tank.
Shark Tank. I love the Dragon's Den.
Yeah. So he pitched it on Dragon's Den, and I can't remember what happened there. And then I guess Amazing Race Canada contacted him to use it as the face-off.
Oh, cool.
But there were a couple of teams who really struggled with it and kept falling in the water. And on the Facebook page for Amazing Race Canada, that guy was commenting saying, "Oh my God, I am so pissed off with you guys because you had people use my product incorrectly, and now it looks like nobody will buy my product because it's too hard to use, and because English wasn't his first language. His exact words were, "I'm going to sue for millions of dollars."
Oh, God.
Dollars with the ARDS.
Oh,
And
no.
he like kept posting it, and the moderator for the social media page had to keep deleting his comments. So I screenshot it because I'm like, there's no way they're going to keep this up. So I was like, screenshot, this is the funniest thing ever. And Harmstone and I did a quick 10-minute podcast about just how hilarious it was, but we were like, this doesn't really work as a podcast, so we never uploaded it. But every other year or so, we still reference if we're upset about something or upset with each other. We always say, "Oh, I'm going to sue you for millions of dollars." And it all comes from that face-off guy being
That's
pissed
funny.
off as to how it went.
So fast forward is confirmed, head to head is confirmed, and a must vote U-turn is confirmed, which again could lead to some drama. I'm not big on spoilers, but I don't think those are like huge spoilers. I think those are just things to look forward to.
Classic twists.
Yeah.
Maybe a scramble in the. I assume.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to do.
Relatively happy with it.
Yeah, it's
they
easy.
Could use it in the finale.
The scramble is just you could do it in any order you want, right? That's the only thing that makes it separate. Is you could do the tasks in any order you want to do them. Yeah, and so that's pretty easy. Pretty easy to do.
Switchback, would that count as a?
I mean, it's something.
I mean, a lot of these.
Yeah.
A lot of these tasks are after 37 seasons. There's such narrow windows of difference between a lot of these tasks that they are unacknowledged switchbacks, but.
Yeah,
maybe partner swap at Final Four to piss everybody off.
Yeah, I don't know how much I like the partner swap as just an idea in general, because I would have hated like splitting up with Diana at any time during the race. Like, she's my partner, she's the one that ran with me. Like, I would have hated getting stuck.
It's now Justin and Josh versus Tanner and Diana.
Oh yeah, right. And I might never have gotten married to Diana, because Tanner would have probably just swooped right in there, right? You know, stud muffin Tanner and his little smile, ding. Anyway.
Who's in the driver's seat now?
Yeah, bitch. Who's in the driver's seat now? But all in all, this was one of my favorite episodes in a long time, and I really enjoyed this cast. I think there's maybe one or two teams that you can clearly see that are just really don't have a chance at being there at the end. But there is a nice little 4 or 5 teams that I can see winning now, where I couldn't see that just looking at them and seeing the generic, who could win the Amazing Race. There's probably 4 or 5 teams that could be there, especially with the must vote U-turn coming up. Which obviously, if a team has a fast forward and they haven't used it yet, and there is no like limit on when they should use it, that obviously you want to maybe push them to do U-turn. Or is that something that you think you would do if they still have the fast forward? Would you make them be the must vote U-turn?
Well, it's tough to gauge because you'd have to anticipate because now it's not like the early seasons where the fast forward was measuring risk versus reward for being sidetracked to this other location. Now whenever they do implement it, it's always something drastic, like shave your head or
which is not drastic.
Well, if you paid $500 for extensions, then it's considered.
I wish they would have said, if you don't do it, you're eliminated right here on the spot. Like, it's not a hard task. It's hair. It grows back, unless you're me. It doesn't grow back. It's like, I wish I had hair. But listen, it's not a hard task. That's one of the easiest tasks on the Amazing Race, just because somebody cried, "Oh my God, I'm losing my hair." So what? It's not a big deal. Put a hat on. Girls wear wigs even when they have hair. Like, they just put wigs on because it looks cool. It looks different. It's not that big of a deal. When you can't grow your hair back and you got a hairline like the Wu-Tang Clan, like that's something that, come on. One of the most.
Yeah, Wu-Tang ain't nothing to mess with.
That's right. Partner swap, has been badly executed. Any ideas on the final memory challenge so far? I don't see anything that's tying it all together. Here, I don't see anything that's really tying it all together, and to be honest, I don't know how great the the final memory challenges have been in past seasons. I can't think of one that really stands out as great. Like, I think final memory challenges need to take like at least an hour to do. To me, I think it has to be something that is going to be hard for even the best teams. Like, I was pissed off with the way our memory challenges were, which kind of sucked. And and it's all James Earl's fault, to be honest, because he was one of the testers of the final challenges. And I wish they would have kept it the way they originally had it, but they made some changes because of James Earl. But anyway, so maybe it has something to do with all the twists, but I don't know. How could that really
like match it to the leg?
Just kind of, that'd be too easy to me. Like, duh. Like, I don't even need to write those down. I could probably just memorize those.
As awful as Amazing Race Canada has been for a long time, the one thing they always seem to do right is they always seem to have, or almost always, they try to go really tough on the final memory challenge, where you typically have to match up like 3 different events or tasks for each leg of the race.
Love harder.
Like they really test it out.
Like the final leg should be like the team that did the best preparing, the team that took the best notes, the team that paid attention during the race should be rewarded on the final leg. Like, I don't want needle in the haystack challenges where, you know, that sucks on the final leg. I don't want challenges that anybody could figure out. Anybody could figure out, even if you didn't take good notes, you could still figure out. Like, I don't want that. I want people who have taken the best notes and they're studying with their partners every single leg. At the end of the leg, they're breaking everything down, memorizing stuff, and they get an advantage. I want the super fans. I want the people who love this race to win the race every single time. And having a tough task at the end is usually what separates those teams. And I want those memory challenges to be hard every single season. Like, I know they got production stuff, but anyway.
Maybe they'll print out pictures of different active route info locations on photos that were taken on Kodak Easy Share digital cameras.
We'll see how that goes.
That's the twist.
Saunders, I can't believe you didn't wish your partner, Michael Harmstone, a happy birthday. What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell is wrong with you?
Yes. Oh, is it just his birthday now? Because it's like 1 a.m. there in the UK?
I don't know. Is it? What is this, the 24th? Is that what it is? It's the 24th, his birthday, and it's the 23rd everywhere else in the world? We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I do love season 25. Is that the one where season 25 is the one where it took hours going around the shipyard. I love that. That was such the longest one ever. It was the longest
Amy hobbling around.
Wasn't that's pretty much the longest one ever, right? I like that.
I think Josh and Brent with the UN season 21.
Yeah.
That was they had the actual timestamp of 3.5 hours when they finished.
Yeah, that was a good one. I like that one as well.
For the US version, I think that's the longest one I can think of.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything you want to tell the fans of the Amazing Race? Any bits of information? Any words of wisdom? Any advice for future racers?
For me, I haven't even been on the race at all. I'm just hoping to get on Traders.
I wish they would get Amazing Races on Traders, man. I can't even see where to apply. I can't even see where to apply. I want to be on Traders just to represent. It's like, I'm tired of all the housewives. Come on, a housewife. What are they going to win? They're all rich. They're all rich because they married the rich people. Like, why would you put them on the show? Get out of here. Oh, they're
I like how the appearance fees for Deal or No Deal Island and Traders are so high that the contestants all get that it discouraged a lot of them for like being on Big Brother 38 or Amazing Race 38 because the appearance fee was nowhere near what people are getting on Traders and Deal or No Deal Island.
What are the fees? Do you know?
Well, what they've said is that few times it's been quoted at like $250,000 to be on Deal or No. That's what Boston Rob got for being on Deal or No Deal.
Well, I mean, he's an icon, so yeah, they got to pay him. But like everybody,
but I mean, Will Kirby appeared on Deal or No Deal Island, and but he intentionally doesn't do reality shows because they never pay him enough. So they definitely had to spend a lot of money on him. Harvey, of course, was on this season.
I can't stand him. He was terrible on Deal or No Deal Island.
But they apparently there it's like I was hearing rumors that I think that might have been at Hearts of Reality when it was being discussed that like that a lot of them are getting like the ones who were recognizable were getting at least six figures or more just to be on
Holy.
that, and a lot of them for
Nobody on the Amazing
traders
Race.
as well.
Nobody on the Amazing Race gets six figures except the winner, by the way. Nobody
Yeah.
gets life-changing money except the winner. Everybody else gets like, oh, cool, I can do something cool, like maybe get a car or pay for a wedding. Like I won $66,000 on the Amazing Race, and I was still in debt. Like it's not people are like, oh, you won so many trips. You don't win the trips. You win the right to pay $3,000 per trip. Oh, that's great. Like stop. It's not like get out of town. But anyway.
Yeah, like Janelle, I think she was posting on Twitter that she was asked to be on season 38, and then she said, "Well, they only were offering like I think 7 or 8,000 for her to play," and she said, and she's a successful
Real
realtor
estate,
apparently. Yeah, so she's like, it's like
she sells $1 million homes. Like,
yeah.
like if I miss out on selling $1 million home, I'm losing money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
And it's interesting that there's that mindset of a better reality show in the States equates to how much the grand prize is. Meanwhile, in Europe for like Belgian mole and Dutch mole, the prize pots for especially Dutch mole are equivalent of about 10,000 USD for the winner, and this
Jeez.
is for their most popular TV show that half the country watches.
Yeah, but they're the size of like Rhode Island, so I get it. Like, I mean, they're like this big. Like, how much money do they have?
But these are because they do all celebrities for like the Dutch version of the mole, but it's because they get these big appearance fees, and that's part of the reason why the grand prize is only like 10 grand by the end of the season, but yet a lot of their products are still a better output than what we see other shows that say, oh, it's 1 million or 2 million or 5 million or 10 million as the grand prize. So it's interesting to note that there's that ideology of, oh, they're not offering a big grand prize, therefore it must not be as good, even though they might be compensated in terms of appearance fees or just being on the show, because people don't realize, as you know, Justin, that if you go on Amazing Race in the US, sure, grand prize for first is $1 million, but everyone else, they're not getting appearance fees really. They're getting almost nothing.
Yeah, I think there was 5 teams that got less than $2,000 on our season or something like that, like for taking over. So for the whole season, but basically it cost them money being on the season, because if they had a job, 3 weeks out of their job plus all the money they spent on stuff to get there, and then all the time they spent, and so I get it. Like the Amazing Race is a little cheap when it comes to that, but that's also because we're the redheaded stepchild of CBS, because CBS doesn't own them. If CBS owned them, they'd put a lot more effort into it. But a fun one that's coming out, which I just saw, is they're doing like a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Like,
it was for Netflix.
I think that's going to be so cool. I'm really looking forward to how they do it. If they actually give away a Chocolate Factory, I am applying for that show. Oh my God, I want a Chocolate Factory. I'm addicted to chocolate. I don't even care about the money. Just put. I want to. If I can swim in a lake of chocolate. Oh my God! Ever since I saw the movie, that has been a dream of mine. But anyway,
and then shower off in a pool of metformin or Ramipril or rosuvastatin.
Jeez, look at this guy. He's popping off word. Dutch Mole was, they get 60% ratings, but that's still what? Is that like 100,000 people?
No, that's like, that's got to be like 5. That's more than what Amazing Race would get, or even Survivor in terms of ratings within the States.
Well, I know ratings wise, but actual viewers?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it would be more. Yeah. Yeah, like in Belgium. So I'll quickly detour into Belgian mole finale. I've gone there 3 times for their finales, and what they do is they have a press room inside the movie theater that Michael and I get invited to screen the finale, and all of the Belgian media is there to interview all of the finalists. And in addition, for the viewing for the finale, they rent out this big movie theater that has 12 different cinema screens, and they all get filled up just to watch the finale episode. And then after that, there's usually like a big after party as well that's put on by production. It's not like where it falls onto the onus of the winner or the runner-ups or one of the finalists to host the after party. It's like the network who puts it on, and Yeah, it's quite the extravagant event for a reality TV finale.
Slow down, Harmstone. 3 million people plus. Amazing Race gets 2.6 million people live. That's not counting the DVRs, which are usually way more than 3 million total. So get out of here. You know, I know 63% of the population watches it, which is great for that country, but the country's this big. It's like a state. It's like saying one of our states watch something. I get it. I get you. You're trying to promote your Weed Mole, which starts, when is it? It starts soon, right? Didn't you write that in the chat? You guys starting something, but anyway.
Armstrong's in there yet. It's got the premiere date for Belgian Mole.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, anything else you want to throw out there before we give our goodbyes here?
No, nothing. Yeah, I'm just doing my thing on, Instagram and
Promote it. Let people know.
Sky. Yeah, if you follow, I don't even know what my handle. Well,
it's in the
RTV Warriors.
It's in the description below if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, check out the description. It'll link you to where to find me. I'm not that difficult to find. Yeah.
Yes, so I appreciate you coming on. One of the few people on Earth who knows more about the Amazing Race than I do, at least from an outside perspective. I appreciate you, bud, and thank you for sharing your stories with us, and for each and every one of you in chat, especially Will and James. I love when former racers pop in here. Thank you for the support.
Oh, they were there? They were here?
Yeah, Will and James.
They're watching me?
Oh,
I always have to watch them on podcasts, and now they're watching me. The tables have turned, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, and I've been really slacking. I don't really watch anybody's podcast anymore. I used to watch every single podcast of every single one, moving like to do research for this, but I have so much stuff going on in my life that unfortunately I have to prioritize other things because my life is a shit show right now. But anyway, thank you guys. Thank each and every one of you for stopping by and watching the show live, and for everybody listening afterwards. I really appreciate you. It means the world to me that I get to share like my thoughts about my favorite show with other super fan nerds like myself, and hopefully you guys get to live your dream one day and get on the Amazing Race and use some of the things you learn on this show to win it all. Nothing would make me happier than to see Racers Recap fans use that stuff to win it all. It would make me feel like I did what I wish other people did for me before I got on the show, is give me a little bit of an edge over the other teams, even more of an edge than I had the other teams. I will see you guys on season 40 when we get back on to whip some ass. But until then, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hasta la vista. You can say
peace out and just chill till the next episode. Oh, I still got to do my sign off.